The scream came before anyone saw the danger. A little boy, no older than 6, broke free from his mother's hand and sprinted into the rain-soaked street, chasing a bright red balloon. The traffic light had already turned green. A delivery truck thundered toward the intersection. People froze. Some gasped. Others lifted their phones. No one moved, except one woman. Emma Carter didn't think. She ran. The tray of coffee she had been carrying exploded across the sidewalk as she threw herself into the street. The truck's horn blasted. Rubber screamed against wet asphalt. For one impossible second, it looked like both of them would disappear beneath the wheels. Then Emma wrapped both arms around the child and rolled across the pavement. The truck stopped inches away. Silence. Then applause. Then shouting. The little boy burst into tears. His mother collapsed beside him, hugging him so tightly he could barely breathe. "Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you." Emma smiled, despite the blood running down her elbow. "It's okay. I'm okay." She wasn't. Her ankle screamed every time she tried to stand. But the child was alive. That was enough. Or at least, she thought it would be. 20 minutes later, she stood inside the manager's office of Riverside Grand Hotel, soaked from the rain, still trembling from adrenaline. Across the desk, her manager folded his arms. His expression wasn't grateful. It wasn't relieved. It was furious. "You abandoned your station." Emma blinked. "Excuse me? You left guests unattended. There were complaints. The lobby cameras caught everything." She stared at him. "I saved a little boy. You caused a scene. You broke 6 cups. You frightened VIP guests. You damaged hotel property." Emma let out a slow breath. "I thought saving a child's life mattered more." The manager leaned back. "Not while wearing this hotel's uniform." She waited. Surely this was the moment he admitted he was joking. Instead, he opened a drawer, pulled out a document, placed it on the desk. Termination notice. Emma's stomach turned cold. "You can't be serious." "I am. You fired me because I saved someone." "No." His voice became colder. "I fired you because you embarrassed this establishment." Something inside Emma cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to remind her how unfair life could become. She had worked there for nearly 4 years. Never late, never complained. Covered shifts nobody wanted. Worked holidays, skipped birthdays, missed Christmas dinners, all because the paycheck kept the lights on in the tiny apartment she shared with her younger sister Lily. Now, 4 years ended with one signature. She looked down, then quietly signed. If they wanted to throw her away, she wouldn't beg. Outside, rain poured harder. Emma sat alone beneath the hotel entrance canopy. The termination envelope rested on her lap. Inside her wallet, $38. Rent due in 5 days. Lily's college tuition overdue. Medicine for their sick grandmother. Everything depended on the job she no longer had. She laughed. Not because anything was funny, because crying in public felt somehow more embarrassing. Her phone vibrated. "Lily." Emma answered immediately. "Hey, you sound tired. Long day. You coming home?" Emma closed her eyes. "I'll be a little late. You promise?" "I promise." She lied. She had nowhere to go. "I'm sorry." The words escaped before she realized she'd spoken aloud. Inside the hotel, preparations accelerated. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Security doubled. Managers adjusted their ties every few seconds. Tonight, the owner of the city's largest investment consortium had reserved the entire presidential floor. No mistakes, no delays, no surprises. Nobody outside the executive board knew the guest's true identity. Officially, his name was Adrian Moretti, business magnate, investor, philanthropist. Unofficially, entire criminal organizations avoided speaking his name because Adrian Moretti wasn't simply rich. He controlled networks stretching across continents. His empire moved billions, and unlike the stories whispered in expensive bars, he rarely raised his voice. He never threatened. People simply disappeared after crossing him. At precisely 7 o'clock, 3 black SUVs stopped before the hotel. Doors opened simultaneously. Men in tailored black suits exited first. Every movement synchronized. Every pair of eyes scanning rooftops. Then, one man stepped out. Tall, broad shoulders, dark, tailored coat despite the rain. No umbrella. The storm seemed irrelevant. Adrian Moretti walked without hurry, without arrogance, without needing attention. He already owned it. The hotel staff immediately bowed. "Welcome, Mr. Moretti." He nodded once. Nothing more. His gray eyes quietly observed everything. Nothing escaped them. A wet floor, a nervous receptionist, a shaking bellboy, broken ceramic fragments near the entrance, as though reconstructing an entire story from tiny pieces. Before entering, he stopped. Not because someone greeted him, because he noticed a small boy hugging a woman outside beneath the canopy. The same child from earlier. The mother was speaking rapidly, crying again. Emma kept smiling. "It's all right. I'd do it again." The little boy suddenly kissed Emma's cheek. "You saved me." Adrian watched silently, his head tilted almost imperceptibly. One of his security chiefs stepped closer. "Problem, sir?" "No." Adrian kept looking. "Find out who she is." The guard nodded. Immediately. Inside, the hotel manager personally escorted Adrian toward the private elevator, trying far too hard to impress him. "We pride ourselves on exceptional service. Our employees are highly disciplined. We tolerate no misconduct." Adrian remained silent. The manager continued talking. "We even terminated an employee today for violating hotel protocol." That made Adrian stop walking. For the first time, he looked directly at the manager. "What happened?" The manager smiled proudly. "She abandoned her duties." Adrian waited. The manager continued. "Apparently she ran into traffic to save a child." Silence. Long, heavy, uncomfortable silence. The manager suddenly realized something felt wrong. Adrian's expression hadn't changed. That was the frightening part. Because everyone who knew him understood. The quieter he became, the more dangerous the next decision usually was. His eyes drifted toward the rain outside. Emma was still sitting alone, holding the termination envelope with both hands, as though trying to convince herself not to fall apart. Adrian spoke only one sentence. Softly, almost gently. "Bring her to me." The manager forced a laugh. "You mean security?" Adrian slowly turned back. "No. I mean, the woman you just fired." The manager suddenly felt the blood drain from his face. The manager's smile vanished so quickly, it was almost painful to watch. For several endless seconds, no one in the private lobby dared to breathe. He searched Adrian Moretti's face for a hint that this was some kind of test. There was none. Adrian simply stood there, one hand resting in the pocket of his dark overcoat, rainwater still dripping from the hem. His expression remained unreadable. "Sir," the manager finally managed. "Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding." "There has." Adrian's voice was calm. "You haven't explained why the woman who saved a child was punished." The manager swallowed. "Our policies." "I didn't ask about your policies." His tone never changed. "I asked why." The words landed heavier than shouting ever could. The hotel executives standing nearby quietly lowered their eyes. They had attended enough board meetings to recognize the warning signs. Adrian Moretti almost never repeated himself. If he did, someone usually regretted forcing him to. Outside, Emma slowly stood from the bench beneath the entrance canopy. Her ankles still hurt. Every step reminded her of the truck that had nearly ended everything an hour earlier. She pulled her thin jacket tighter around herself and limped toward the bus stop. She couldn't afford a taxi, couldn't afford to waste another dollar. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was the pharmacy. "Miss Carter?" "Yes. We wanted to remind you that your grandmother's medication is ready." Emma closed her eyes. "I'll pick it up tomorrow. The prescription expires tomorrow evening." "I know. We're sorry." "So am I." The call ended. She looked inside her wallet again. $38. Medicine alone would cost nearly $60. Rent, electricity, Lily's tuition payment. Her head began to ache. One disaster always seemed to arrive carrying another. Inside the hotel, Adrian had not moved. The manager hurriedly motioned toward the head of human resources. "Find her. Immediately." Within seconds, security guards rushed toward the entrance. Not aggressively, almost nervously, as though they feared making another mistake. Adrian noticed. "They're running." No one answered. They should have run that fast when the child stepped into traffic. Silence. The words struck every employee standing nearby. Some looked ashamed. Others looked away. The manager wished the marble floor would simply open beneath him. Less than 2 minutes later, a young security officer returned. "Sir, she already left." The manager's heart skipped. "Find her." "We're trying." The officer hesitated. She refused medical treatment. She was limping. She said she couldn't afford the hospital. Adrian's gaze hardened almost imperceptibly. Not anger. Disappointment. The kind that chilled a room. "How long did she work here?" The manager quickly answered. 3, almost 4 years. "And this is how you reward loyalty." It was standard. "Don't." The single word cut him off. "I've heard enough." Across town, Emma finally boarded an old city bus. Rain streaked the windows, turning the city lights into blurred ribbons of gold and blue. She rested her forehead against the cold glass. Her body was exhausted, but her mind refused to stop. How would she explain this to Lily? How many job applications would she have to send tomorrow? Would anyone hire someone who had just been fired? Her fingers unconsciously tightened around the termination letter. Then she noticed something. The little boy's red balloon. It had somehow become tangled around the strap of her bag. She smiled for the first time all evening. The child must have tied it there without her noticing. A tiny thank you. It felt strangely precious. "I hope you're safe." She watched the balloon gently sway with every turn of the bus. Sometimes, kindness survived longer than fear. Several black SUVs quietly pulled away from the hotel. They didn't head toward Adrian's mansion. They followed the city bus instead. Not close enough to alarm anyone, just close enough never to lose sight of it. Inside the lead vehicle, Adrian remained silent. His chief of security, Marco, glanced into the rearview mirror. "Our people located her." Adrian nodded once. Background. Marco opened a tablet. Emma Carter, 27. Graduated with honors in hospitality management. No criminal record. No debts except student loans. No disciplinary reports. Excellent performance reviews. Marco paused. Parents died 8 years ago. Raising her younger sister since she was 19. Caring for an elderly grandmother. Works double shifts. Volunteers twice a month at St. Gabriel Children's Center. Adrian looked out the window. Rain continued to fall. "Anything else?" Marco hesitated. She once returned a briefcase containing nearly $80,000. No reward accepted. Another pause. 3 years ago, she donated bone marrow anonymously. Recipient identity sealed. Silence filled the SUV. Finally, Adrian spoke. Interesting. Marco had worked for Adrian for nearly 15 years. He recognized that word. Whenever Adrian called someone interesting, their lives usually changed forever. Emma stepped off the bus several neighborhoods later. The apartment complex looked older every month. Paint peeled from the walls. One elevator had been broken for nearly a year. She climbed 4 flights, despite the pain shooting through her ankle. By the time she reached apartment 4C, she had forced herself to smile. The door flew open before she could knock. Lily wrapped her arms around her immediately. "You're soaked." "I'm okay." "No, you're not." Lily noticed the torn sleeve, the scraped elbow, the swollen ankle. "What happened?" Emma laughed softly. "You know me. I had an exciting day." Lily crossed her arms. "Emma." Emma handed over the red balloon. "For you." Lily blinked. "I'm 20. I know. But everybody deserves a balloon sometimes. For a moment." They both laughed. It didn't last. Lily spotted the envelope in Emma's hand. Her smile slowly disappeared. "What is that?" Emma remained quiet. Lily gently took it, opened it. "Read the first sentence. Termination of employment." She looked up. "They fired you?" Emma nodded. "Why?" Emma hesitated, then answered honestly. "I saved a child." Lily stared. "What?" "They said I embarrassed the hotel." For several seconds, neither sister spoke. Then Lily burst into angry tears. "That's insane." "It is. We'll sue them." Emma shook her head. "With what money?" "We'll figure something out." Emma smiled sadly. "We always do." But this time, she wasn't sure they actually would. Back at the Riverside Grand Hotel, the manager had barely recovered from Adrian's questioning when another executive rushed into his office. "Sir." "What now?" "The Moretti Group canceled tomorrow's investment meeting." His stomach tightened. "What?" "They also suspended negotiations for purchasing the hotel." The manager felt the room spin. That deal alone was worth nearly $200 million. "No, there must be a mistake." "There isn't." The executive's voice trembled. The message contained only one sentence. He handed over the printed email. The manager slowly read it. "Organizations reveal their values by how they treat good people." Nothing else. No signature. None was necessary. His hands began to shake. Across the city, Emma tucked Lily into a reassuring hug before pretending everything would be fine. After Lily went to bed, Emma quietly stepped onto the apartment balcony. The rain had finally stopped. She looked up at the night sky. "I'll find another job." She whispered it like a promise, mostly to herself. Behind her, her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Almost. Instead, she answered. "Hello?" A calm male voice spoke. "Ms. Carter?" "Yes?" "My employer would like to meet you." Emma frowned. "I'm sorry. Who is your employer?" There was a brief pause. Then the answer came. "Mr. Adrian Moretti." Emma searched her memory. The name meant nothing. "I think you have the wrong person. You saved a child today." Emma froze. The voice continued. "He would like to thank you." Emma looked down at the cracked concrete beneath her feet. Something deep inside told her this phone call was about to change everything. She quietly asked, "Who exactly is Adrian Moretti?" Emma tightened her grip on the phone. The name still meant nothing to her. Rainwater dripped from the apartment balcony above, tapping softly against the rusted railing between long stretches of silence. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "I think you've mistaken me for someone else." The man's voice remained polite. "There is no mistake, Ms. Carter. My employer witnessed what happened outside the Riverside Grand Hotel this evening." Emma frowned. "He was there?" "Yes. And he wants to thank me?" "He would prefer to do so in person." Emma looked back through the apartment window. Lily had already fallen asleep on the couch, still clutching one of Emma's old sweaters like she used to as a child whenever life became frightening. Emma's heart softened. Then reality returned. "I'm not interested in rewards. You misunderstand. My employer rarely offers gratitude. He offers opportunities." Emma almost laughed. "I appreciate the offer, but tomorrow I need to find another job. Good night." She ended the call. Whew, that chapter, she told herself, was over. She had no idea it had only just begun. Nearly 20 miles away, inside the back seat of a black SUV parked beneath the city's skyline, Marco lowered his phone. She declined. Adrian looked out the window. I expected that. Marco hesitated. Should we arrange another meeting? No. What if she never contacts us? Adrian's eyes remained fixed on the glowing city below. People reveal themselves when they believe no one is watching. A pause. I've seen enough to know who she is. Marco nodded. He had long ago stopped questioning Adrian's instincts. They had built an empire more reliable than algorithms. The following morning, Emma woke before sunrise. Her ankle had swollen overnight. Walking hurt. Staying home wasn't an option. She quietly prepared breakfast before Lily woke. 2 slices of toast. 1 fried egg. She placed the larger portion on Lily's plate. As always. Lily noticed immediately. You didn't make enough. I'm not hungry. Emma, I ate while cooking. It was another lie. Lily stared at her sister for a long moment. Neither of them mentioned it. Both understood. Money had become too precious for arguments. 3 hours later, Emma had already been rejected by 5 hotels. The first manager smiled apologetically. We're not hiring. The second never looked up from his computer. The third asked why she'd left Riverside Grand. The moment she admitted she'd been terminated, the interview ended. No questions, no explanation, just polite smiles and closed doors. By noon, the city felt colder than the weather. Emma sat alone on a park bench, reviewing job listings on her aging phone. Almost every opening required references, or experience, or immediate availability. She had all 3, yet somehow, she felt invisible. What am I doing wrong? No answer came, only the wind. Across downtown, inside the headquarters of the Moretti Group, executives sat around a conference table worth more than Emma's apartment building. Quarterly reports filled the screens. Acquisition proposals waited for approval. No one spoke unnecessarily. At precisely 9 o'clock, Adrian entered. Everyone stood. He acknowledged no one. Instead, he took his seat and opened a thin folder. Not financial projections, not contracts. A personnel file. Emma Carter. One executive recognized the name. The former hotel employee? Adrian looked up. Yes. The executive forced a smile. A regrettable incident. Fortunately, it has no impact on today's business. Adrian closed the folder. It does. Silence. The Riverside Grand. We currently own 28%. Several board members exchanged confused glances. Adrian continued. Increase it to controlling interest. One director blinked. Sir, that acquisition wasn't scheduled until next year. It is now. Another executive carefully asked. May I ask why? Adrian answered without emotion. If leadership cannot recognize integrity, they are unqualified to lead. No one challenged the decision. Meeting adjourned. Within 11 minutes. Meanwhile, Emma entered a neighborhood grocery store. A handwritten sign hung near the entrance. Help wanted. Her heart lifted. The elderly owner greeted her kindly. You've worked retail before? No, but I learned quickly. The owner smiled. I believe you. Hope flickered. Then another employee hurried over. Mr. Harris, the freezer's broken again. The owner sighed. I'm sorry. I can't afford another salary until next month. Emma smiled anyway. I understand. He looked genuinely disappointed. I wish I'd met you a month earlier. She thanked him before leaving. Outside, she finally allowed herself to cry. Not loudly, just quietly enough that strangers would pretend not to notice. She wiped away the tears almost immediately. There was still another interview, still another chance. She couldn't quit. Too many people depended on her. A black sedan remained parked across the street. Marco watched silently. One of the younger security agents shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, shouldn't we help her?" Marco never took his eyes off Emma. "Our boss didn't tell us to rescue her. He told us to understand her." The younger man frowned. "What's the difference?" Marco answered softly. "If you save someone too early, you never discover how strong they truly are." Late that afternoon, Emma's final interview took place inside a fashionable cafe. The owner seemed impressed, until he asked the familiar question, "Why did you leave your last position?" Emma considered lying. She couldn't. "I was fired." His smile faded. "I'm sorry. We're looking for someone with a cleaner employment history." She nodded politely. "Thank you for your time." As she stood to leave, a little girl accidentally knocked over an entire tray of expensive pastries. Customers groaned. The child's father looked horrified. Before anyone blamed the little girl, Emma crouched beside her. "Are you hurt?" The little girl shook her head. Emma smiled. "Then everything important is okay." She helped clean the mess, refused to let the embarrassed father pay for her ruined clothes. The cafe owner watched every second. After Emma left, he quietly muttered, "I think I just turned away the best employee I'll ever interview." As evening settled over the city, Emma slowly walked home carrying a single grocery bag. Bread, milk, instant noodles. Nothing else. She checked her bank balance. $23.16. Enough for a few more days. Maybe. Her phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. She almost ignored it. Instead, she answered with a tired smile. "You really don't give up." The familiar voice replied, "My employer asked me to make one final request." Emma sighed. "I'm listening." "There is a community center on Willow Street. You volunteer there every second Saturday." Emma's expression changed. "How do you know that?" "My employer will be there tomorrow. He will not ask you to work for him. He will not offer you money. He simply wishes to meet the woman who believes strangers are worth saving." A long silence followed. Emma looked toward the fading sunset. Something about those words felt different. Not like a business negotiation. Not like charity. Finally, she spoke. "1 hour. I can spare 1 hour. We'll be there." The call ended. Emma slipped the phone into her pocket. She had agreed only because it sounded harmless. She didn't realize someone else had already learned about tomorrow's meeting. Across the street, inside a parked luxury car, a middle-aged man lowered a pair of binoculars. He picked up his phone. "I've confirmed it." A cold voice answered from the other end. "And Moretti?" "He's interested in the Waitress." Several seconds of silence. Then the reply came. "So am I." The line went dead. For the first time, Emma Carter had become the center of a game she didn't even know existed. Morning arrived wrapped in silver clouds. The city was quieter after yesterday's storm, but Emma barely noticed. Her thoughts kept circling the same question. Who was Adrian Moretti? She had searched his name online before bed. The results were ordinary enough. A billionaire investor, chairman of the Moretti Group, a generous donor to children's hospitals, a man who almost never gave interviews, a face that appeared on magazine covers but revealed nothing. There were no scandals, no gossip, no personal life. Almost too clean. Emma slipped her phone into her pocket. Whatever the truth was, she had promised only 1 hour. Nothing more. The St. Gabriel Community Center buzzed with laughter long before noon. Children chased one another across the courtyard. Volunteers arranged donated books on old wooden shelves. Someone in the kitchen baked cinnamon rolls, filling the building with a warmth money could never buy. Emma had been volunteering here for nearly 3 years. It was one of the few places where nobody asked what she earned, or where she worked, or why she looked so tired. The children simply called her Miss Emma, and somehow that was enough. The moment she stepped through the door, half a dozen little voices shouted her name. "Miss Emma, you came." You promised you'd finish the pirate story. A little girl wrapped herself around Emma's leg before noticing the bandage on her ankle. What happened? Emma smiled. I lost a race with the sidewalk. The children giggled. They believed her. Adults probably wouldn't have. For the next 40 minutes, she forgot she had been fired. Forgot the overdue rent. Forgot the empty bank account. She read stories. Helped build towers out of wooden blocks. Bandaged a scraped knee. Laughed until her sides hurt. None of it was extraordinary. To Emma, it was simply what people did for one another. Outside the community center, 3 black SUVs rolled silently to a stop. They didn't block the entrance. They didn't draw attention. Everything about them suggested discipline rather than intimidation. Marco stepped out first. His sharp eyes swept the street. No obvious threats. Still, something felt wrong. Across the road, a gray sedan had been parked in exactly the same place for over an hour. The driver never got out. Marco memorized the license plate without appearing to look. Then Adrian exited the vehicle. As always, no unnecessary movement. No bodyguards surrounding him. No dramatic entrance. He simply adjusted the cuff of his dark coat and walked toward the building. Inside, Emma was helping a little boy finish a drawing when she sensed someone standing quietly near the doorway. She looked up. The room fell strangely still, not because anyone recognized Adrian. The children didn't, but adults often carried an invisible gravity, and his presence filled the room without demanding it. Their eyes met for the first time. Neither spoke immediately. Emma stood. You must be Mr. Moretti. Adrian gave a small nod. Ms. Carter. She extended her hand. He accepted it. His handshake was firm, brief, respectful. Not once did his eyes drift toward the bruises on her arm or the worn fabric of her jacket. Instead, he looked directly at her, as though nothing else mattered. Thank you for coming, Emma said. You agreed to meet. You didn't have to. I gave my word. A faint expression, almost a smile, appeared for less than a second. I appreciate people who keep their promises. Before Emma could answer, a little boy tugged on Adrian's sleeve. Mister, Adrian looked down. Can you help? Most wealthy businessmen would have glanced toward an assistant, or politely declined. Adrian didn't. What do you need? The boy pointed toward a bookshelf. My spaceship is stuck. A handmade paper rocket had landed on top of the highest shelf. Without hesitation, Adrian walked over, picked up the rocket, knelt so he was eye level with the child. There, the boy grinned. Thanks, then ran away. Emma couldn't help smiling. I wasn't expecting that. Expecting what? You don't seem like someone who spends much time rescuing paper spaceships. Adrian looked at the tiny rocket still resting in the boy's hands. Everyone needs rescuing from something. The words were simple, yet they lingered. The center director soon invited them into her modest office. Coffee was served in mismatched mugs. The furniture had clearly seen better decades. Emma apologized. I'm afraid this isn't exactly luxury. Adrian calmly lifted the chipped cup. I've had worse. The director laughed. I doubt that. He didn't answer. Because it wasn't true. Years ago, long before the tailored suits and skyscrapers, he had known hunger. He had known cold. He simply never spoke about it. Emma broke the silence. Your assistant said you wanted to thank me. I do. You risked your life for someone you didn't know. I'd hope anyone would. They didn't. Emma looked down into her coffee. No. They didn't. Another quiet pause settled between them. Finally, Adrian asked, Do you regret it? Emma answered instantly. No. You lost your job. I can find another. You nearly died. The boy didn't. Her voice never wavered. If I had stood there doing nothing, I couldn't have lived with myself. Adrian studied her for several seconds, not judging, simply observing. as if confirming something he'd already suspected. Outside, inside the gray sedan, the man with the binoculars lowered them again. He pressed a button on his phone. "They're talking." The familiar cold voice answered. "Is Moretti alone?" 3 security men. No visible weapons. Another pause. "And the woman?" "Exactly as described." The voice on the other end became thoughtful. "Keep watching. Do nothing. Yet." Back inside, the conversation drifted naturally. Not about business, not about wealth, about family, books, the children. Emma learned that Adrian personally funded several scholarship programs, but never attended publicity events. Adrian learned that Emma had turned down promotions twice because night shifts allowed her to help Lily during the day. Neither tried to impress the other. For the first time in years, Adrian found himself speaking more than usual. Not much, just enough. Then Emma asked a question. "Can I ask you something?" "You just did." She laughed. "Fair enough. Why were you really looking for me?" Adrian remained silent. A few seconds passed. Then he answered honestly, "Because people like you are rare." Emma looked confused. "There are thousands of people better than me." "No. There are thousands more successful." He leaned back slightly. "That's different." The room became quiet again. Emma wasn't sure how to respond. No one had spoken to her that way before. Not with admiration. Without expecting something in return. Suddenly, Marco appeared at the office door. He didn't interrupt lightly. "Sir." Adrian immediately noticed the change in his expression. "What is it?" Marco glanced briefly toward Emma before speaking. "We need a moment." Adrian stood. "Excuse me." They stepped into the hallway. Marco lowered his voice. "The gray sedan. The driver has been photographing the building. Our team identified him." Adrian's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "Who sent him?" Marco handed over a photograph. "It belongs to Victor Salazar." Silence. Even Marco felt the temperature around Adrian change. Victor Salazar. One of the few men reckless enough to challenge the Moretti organization. A rival who preferred manipulation over open war. Marco continued quietly. "He knows about Miss Carter." A long pause followed. Adrian looked through the office window. Emma was laughing with one of the children, completely unaware. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. For the first time since meeting her, concern crossed his face. Not for himself, for her. He handed the photograph back, then gave only one order. "From this moment, she is not to be left unprotected." As Marco nodded, neither of them noticed the tiny camera hidden across the street. Its lens remained fixed on Emma, recording everything. The tiny camera hidden behind the tinted windshield never blinked. Every smile, every laugh, every moment Emma spent playing with the children inside St. Gabriel Community Center was quietly recorded. The man in the gray sedan adjusted the focus one last time before sending the files. The upload completed in less than 30 seconds. A message immediately appeared on his screen. "Continue surveillance. Do not engage." He started the engine, then disappeared into traffic. Inside the community center, Emma had no idea someone had just added her name to a list she never wanted to exist. She was helping a little girl braid a doll's hair when Adrian returned to the office. Nothing in his expression suggested anything had changed. Only Marco noticed the difference. Adrian's eyes had become quieter, sharper. Whenever that happened, every security protocol changed. Without another word, Marco touched the small earpiece hidden beneath his collar. "Team 1, eyes on the perimeter. Team 2, rotate every 15 minutes. No visible security around the target. Protect without being seen." A chorus of calm acknowledgments answered. Emma remained blissfully unaware. An hour later, the children gathered for lunch. Emma helped serve soup, while Adrian quietly carried trays from the kitchen. One of the volunteers stared in disbelief. "Mr. Moretti, You really don't have to. I'm capable of carrying soup. The elderly volunteer laughed. I suppose billionaires eat soup too. They do. Another volunteer whispered to Emma. He's surprisingly normal. Emma smiled. I was thinking the same thing. Across the room, Adrian overheard them. He said nothing, but for the briefest instant, the corner of his mouth lifted. After lunch, the children insisted on playing outside. The courtyard echoed with laughter. A worn-out soccer ball bounced from child to child. Emma joined them despite her sore ankle. You shouldn't run, Adrian observed. If I don't, Emma replied with a grin, they'll think they're faster than me. They are. She laughed. You're probably right. The game began. Within minutes, Emma was pretending to lose dramatically. The children celebrated every goal as if they had won a championship. Then, the ball rolled toward the street. A little boy dashed after it. Emma's smile disappeared. Without thinking, she ran. Again. This time there was no speeding truck, only a bicycle racing downhill. Emma reached the boy first, pulling him back onto the sidewalk, just before the cyclist sped past. The cyclist slammed on his brakes. I'm so sorry. Emma exhaled slowly. It's all right. The little boy buried his face against her shoulder. I'm sorry, Miss Emma. She gently ruffled his hair. You don't have to be sorry. You just have to remember. Roads aren't playgrounds. Adrian watched from several feet away. Marco quietly stepped beside him. She doesn't hesitate. No, not even after yesterday. Adrian's answer came almost as a whisper. That's who she is. Later that afternoon, Adrian prepared to leave. Emma walked with him toward the entrance. I should thank you, she said. For what? You listened. Most people only hear enough to answer. You actually listened. Adrian regarded her for a moment. People reveal themselves when someone finally listens. Emma tilted her head. You speak like you've spent your life watching people. I have. She almost asked another question. Instead, she smiled. I hope whatever you're looking for, you find it. He held her gaze. I already have. Emma blinked. Before she could understand what he meant, he opened the SUV door. Take care of your ankle. You noticed? I notice everything. Then he entered the vehicle. The convoy pulled away without unnecessary speed. Emma watched until the last SUV disappeared around the corner. Something about the encounter stayed with her. It wasn't attraction. Not yet. It was curiosity, and a strange feeling of safety she couldn't explain. Across the city, inside an abandoned warehouse overlooking the river, Victor Salazar watched the surveillance footage. Dozens of monitors illuminated the dim room. Emma laughing with children. Emma speaking with Adrian. Emma shaking his hand. Victor replayed that last clip 3 times. Then leaned back. So, he smiled coldly. The great Adrian Moretti finally looked at someone. One of his men stepped forward. Should we remove her? Victor's smile disappeared. No, not yet. People become much more valuable when someone else cares whether they live. The room fell silent. Another man cautiously asked, what if she's nobody? Victor looked at the frozen image of Emma helping a child tie his shoelaces. Then Adrian wouldn't have wasted an afternoon. He stood. Find out everything. I want her schedule, her family, her friends, what she buys, where she walks, what time she sleeps. The orders were delivered without emotion, as though discussing inventory, not a human life. That evening, Emma stopped by the pharmacy. The same elderly pharmacist greeted her. I'm sorry, dear. I had to put the medication back. Emma lowered her eyes. I understand. The pharmacist hesitated. Actually, he reached beneath the counter. Someone already paid. Emma frowned. What? This morning. They asked to remain anonymous. I can't accept that. I'm afraid you already have. He placed the medicine into her hands. They insisted. Emma stared at the package. Did they leave a name? No, only a message. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a single handwritten sentence. Kindness should never become a debt. No signature, nothing else. Emma immediately thought of Adrian, but she couldn't be sure. She slipped the note into her pocket. For reasons she couldn't explain, she decided to keep it. From across the street, someone photographed the exchange. Another message was sent. Anonymous financial assistance confirmed. Victor received it less than a minute later. His expression darkened. So, he already started protecting her. He slowly closed the message. Interesting. Night settled over the city. Emma and Lily shared instant noodles at their tiny kitchen table. Lily noticed the medication. You bought it? Emma shook her head. Someone else did. Who? I don't know. Lily raised an eyebrow. You seriously don't know? Emma smiled faintly. I wish I did. Lily studied her sister. You met someone today, didn't you? Emma hesitated. A businessman. Handsome. Emma nearly choked on her noodles. Lily? What? I'm just asking. He was. Emma searched for the right word. Different. Lily smirked. Different usually means handsome. Emma rolled her eyes. It means quiet. That's even worse. They both laughed. For the first time since losing her job, the apartment felt a little lighter. Neither sister noticed the black SUV parked discreetly at the end of the street, or the second vehicle parked 2 blocks away. Marco's team had already established a rotating security detail. Invisible, professional, always watching. Just after midnight, one of Marco's agents noticed movement. A man wearing a dark hoodie crossed the street toward Emma's apartment building. He wasn't carrying groceries. He wasn't visiting anyone. He stopped beneath a streetlight, lifted a camera with a telephoto lens. Focused on Emma's apartment window, the agent quietly spoke into his microphone. Possible surveillance. Marco answered immediately. Do not engage. Identify first. The hooded man took 3 photographs, then reached into his pocket. Instead of another camera, he pulled out a small envelope. He slipped it beneath the apartment building's front door, then disappeared into the darkness before anyone could intercept him. 5 minutes later, Marco himself retrieved the envelope. There was no address, no fingerprints, only a single sheet of paper, printed in black ink. He unfolded it. His expression hardened. He immediately called Adrian. Adrian answered on the first ring. Report. Marco read the message aloud. You can protect her during the day. He turned the page over. There was one final sentence. But everyone has to sleep eventually. A long silence followed. Then Adrian spoke. His voice remained calm, dangerously calm. Double the security. And Marco? Yes, sir. For the first time that night, a trace of steel entered Adrian's voice. If anyone gets close enough to frighten her again, they're already too close. The message lay on Adrian's desk long after everyone else had left the room. A single sheet of paper, 2 sentences, no signature, no demands, just a promise, or perhaps a warning. Marco stood across from him in silence. He had seen threatening letters before, hundreds of them. Most came from men trying to appear dangerous. This one was different. It wasn't loud. It wasn't theatrical. It was patient. That made it far more dangerous. Finally, Adrian folded the paper in half. Victor wrote this. Marco nodded. We believe so. He wants a reaction. He won't get one. Adrian slipped the letter back into the envelope. He wants us nervous. We'll make him impatient instead. Before sunrise, Emma was already awake. Sleep had barely visited her. Too many numbers kept circling through her mind. Rent, utilities, tuition, groceries. She quietly opened her laptop. Dozens of job applications waited for replies that never came. One email after another. Thank you for your interest. We've decided to move forward with another candidate. We wish you success. Emma closed the laptop. She couldn't bear reading another polite rejection. Okay, she whispered to herself. One more day. Just keep moving. Lily walked into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. You've been up all night again. I'm fine. No, you're pretending. Emma smiled. It's a useful skill. Lily didn't smile back. You don't always have to protect everyone. Emma looked away. I know. Then why do you? The question lingered. Emma thought about the little boy in the street, about the children at St. Gabriel, about their grandmother, about Lily. Then she answered with quiet honesty, because nobody protected us. Silence filled the tiny kitchen. Lily crossed the room and hugged her sister without another word. Across the city, the Moretti headquarters had transformed overnight. Additional security checkpoints, encrypted communications, unmarked vehicles entering and leaving the underground garage. No announcements were made. Only those inside Adrian's inner circle understood why. Victor Salazar had crossed an invisible line, not by threatening Adrian. By threatening someone Adrian had chosen to protect. Marco entered Adrian's office carrying a thin folder. Our investigation. Adrian opened it. Photographs, financial records, phone logs, maps. Victor's organization had expanded rapidly over the past 6 months. Several warehouse leases, new shell companies, unexpected cash flow. Something larger was happening. Marco pointed to one page. We think he's preparing a major shipment. Adrian looked up. Where? We don't know yet. But whatever it is, it's worth risking a war. Adrian closed the folder. Keep watching. Marco hesitated. And Ms. Carter? Adrian's answer came immediately. She remains the priority. Late that morning, Emma answered a call from an employment agency. Her heart lifted. Ms. Carter? Yes. We have a temporary position. I'm interested. It's housekeeping. I'll take it. There is one condition. Hope faded slightly. The hotel specifically requested someone without recent disciplinary history. Emma closed her eyes. I understand. I'm sorry. So am I. The call ended. She stared at the silent phone, then laughed once. A tired laugh. Not because anything was amusing, because disappointment had become strangely familiar. She slipped the phone into her pocket and continued walking. No tears this time. She had already spent them. 2 blocks away, an elderly man struggled with several grocery bags. One bag split open. Apples rolled across the sidewalk. Without hesitation, Emma knelt to help. Thank you, the man said. My knees aren't what they used to be. Emma smiled. Mine aren't having their best week either. The old man chuckled. They gathered every apple. One had rolled dangerously close to the street. Emma carefully retrieved it before handing the bag back. You have kind hands, the man said. She laughed softly. I've never heard that before. It's true. People reveal themselves through small things. He tipped his hat before walking away. Emma watched him disappear into the crowd. She never noticed the black SUV parked across the intersection. Marco had. His earpiece crackled. Background check complete. The old man was exactly who he appeared to be. Just another stranger, whose day Emma had quietly improved. Marco smiled to himself. Some people couldn't help being good. Emma was one of them. That afternoon, Victor Salazar received another surveillance report. His lieutenant placed several photographs on the table. Emma helping the elderly man. Emma comforting a crying child outside a bookstore. Emma giving directions to tourists. Victor slowly flipped through each picture. Interesting. The lieutenant frowned. What? She behaves exactly the same, whether anyone is watching or not. He leaned back. That makes her believable. Another pause. Which makes her dangerous. Dangerous? Victor nodded. To men like Adrian. Because people like her remind people what they've lost. At sunset, Emma stopped by St. Gabriel again. Not to volunteer, simply to return a storybook a child had forgotten. The center was closed. Only Sister Margaret remained inside. The elderly nun smiled warmly. I was hoping I'd see you. Emma handed over the book. I didn't want Oliver to think I'd forgotten. Sister Margaret looked at her for a long moment. You've been carrying too much. Emma tried to laugh. I'll survive. I know. The older woman gently squeezed her hand. But even the strongest hearts become tired. Emma finally admitted it. I'm scared. There. Sister Margaret smiled. That wasn't so difficult. Emma looked away. I don't know how to keep everything together anymore. The nun reached into a drawer. She removed an old photograph. 2 young women wearing volunteer uniforms decades earlier. I was your age once. Emma blinked. You? I worried about bills. I worked 2 jobs. I believed asking for help meant failure. She smiled gently. I was wrong. Emma studied the faded picture. What changed? I learned something. What? Sister Margaret's eyes softened. Sometimes God answers prayers. Through people. Emma quietly folded the photograph back into its envelope. I hope you're right. So do I. As Emma stepped outside, the street appeared empty. Too empty. Marco noticed it immediately from half a block away. His instincts tightened. The evening traffic had suddenly vanished. No buses, no pedestrians, no cyclists. Just silence. He touched his earpiece. Everyone stay alert. Before anyone could answer, a delivery van slowly turned the corner. Nothing unusual, except it stopped directly beside Emma. The sliding side door opened. 2 masked men jumped out. One grabbed Emma's arm. The other reached for her shoulder. Everything happened in less than 2 seconds. Emma reacted instantly. She twisted free just enough to shove one attacker backward. He slammed into the van. The second man caught her wrist. She screamed, "Help!" before either man could pull her inside. A black SUV exploded into the intersection. Its tires shrieked against the pavement. Marco was already moving before the vehicle stopped. The attackers saw him. Too late. One released Emma immediately. The other reached beneath his jacket, then froze. Because Adrian Moretti had stepped out of the SUV. He didn't shout. He didn't run. He simply looked at them. The street became eerily still. One attacker whispered, "It's him." Fear flooded both men's faces. They abandoned the van without another thought, running as fast as they could into a nearby alley. Marco started after them. Adrian raised one hand. "Leave them." Marco stopped instantly. "They'll lead us to Victor." Adrian's attention never left Emma. She was breathing hard. Her sleeve had been torn. Her wrist was red where someone had grabbed her. Nothing more. But it was enough. He walked toward her, stopped an arm's length away. "Are you hurt?" Emma shook her head, still trying to steady her breathing. She couldn't finish. The adrenaline was crashing all at once. Adrian removed his coat. Without a word, he gently placed it around her shoulders. Only then did she notice something. His normally calm gray eyes were no longer calm. There was anger there. Cold. Controlled. Far more frightening than shouting. Emma looked at him, confused. Why would someone try to kidnap me? Adrian held her gaze. For the first time, he didn't avoid the truth. Because of me. Emma's face went completely still. The words barely registered. Then Adrian quietly added, "And from this moment on, your life is no longer as ordinary as it was yesterday." Emma stared at Adrian as the sound of the fleeing van faded into the distance. The world around her seemed to lose all definition. The quiet street, the flickering street lamp, the cold evening air. Everything blurred into the single sentence still echoing inside her mind. Because of me. She pulled his coat tighter around her shoulders, more out of instinct than comfort. What do you mean? Adrian didn't answer immediately. Marco had already dispatched 2 teams to secure the area, while another photographed the abandoned van. No sirens. No panic. Everything unfolded with practiced precision. Emma noticed. These weren't ordinary bodyguards. They moved like men who had trained together for years. She looked back at Adrian. Who are you? A long silence followed. Finally, he spoke. I'm someone with powerful enemies. Emma let out a slow breath. I figured that much. You should leave. She blinked. What? You shouldn't be anywhere near me. Adrian's expression remained calm. They came because they saw me speak to you. They'll assume you matter. I won't let you pay that price. Emma stared at him in disbelief. So your solution is to walk away? Yes. She almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. You don't even know me. I know enough. You've already lost your job because you helped someone. I won't let you lose your safety because of me. Emma took a step closer despite the ache in her ankle. You don't get to decide that. For the first time, something unexpected crossed Adrian's face. Surprise. Very slight. Very real. Almost no one ever challenged him, especially not after learning he was dangerous. Emma wasn't angry. She was simply honest. And if walking away doesn't stop them? She asked quietly. What then? Adrian had no immediate answer. Marco approached carefully. The van is stolen. Fake plates. No fingerprints. Adrian nodded, as expected. There is something else. Marco handed him a small evidence bag. Inside was a silver coin. Old. Heavy. An unfamiliar symbol had been carved into one side. Emma frowned. What is that? Marco answered, before Adrian could. It's Victor Salazar's signature. He leaves one behind whenever he wants someone to know he was responsible. Emma looked from the coin to Adrian. So, this wasn't random. No. The truth settled over her like winter snow. Someone she had never met had tried to abduct her, simply because she'd spoken to the man standing in front of her. Half an hour later, Emma sat inside one of Adrian's SUVs. Not because she wanted luxury, because Marco had convinced her it wasn't safe to walk home until they confirmed the area was secure. The vehicle was quiet. Comfortable. Nothing flashy. Adrian sat across from her. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, Emma broke the silence. Can I ask you something? You can ask anything. Were you always like this? He looked out the window. No. What changed? Another pause. I learned that hesitation has consequences. She studied him. That sounds like experience. It is. Emma didn't push further. Everyone carried scars. Some were simply harder to see. After another minute, she smiled faintly. I owe you an apology. For what? I thought you were just another billionaire. And now? I think you're the strangest man I've ever met. To Marco's astonishment, Adrian actually smiled. Barely, but enough to exist. I've been called worse. The tension inside the vehicle eased, only slightly. Yet somehow, it mattered. Across the city, Victor Salazar calmly poured himself a glass of whiskey. His lieutenant entered. We failed. Victor didn't even look up. I know. The men panicked. They saw Moretti. They're alive? They escaped. Victor nodded. Good. The lieutenant frowned. We wanted the woman. No. Victor took a slow sip. I wanted Adrian's attention. He placed the glass on the table. And now I have it. Another pause. The next move won't be so simple. The lieutenant hesitated. What do we do now? Victor smiled. We stop chasing the woman. The lieutenant looked confused. Victor continued. We make her come to us. Back inside the SUV, Emma's phone suddenly rang. Lily. Emma answered immediately. Hey. Emma. Lily sounded terrified. Where are you? I'm fine. No, you're not. There were men asking about you. Emma's heartbeat stopped. What? They came to the apartment building. They showed your picture. They told the landlord they were old friends. Emma closed her eyes. What did you say? I told them nothing. They left. But, Lily's voice trembled. They'll come back. Emma looked toward Adrian. He had already heard enough. Without interrupting, he quietly spoke to Marco. Send Team 3. Protect the apartment. Move now. Marco nodded and immediately issued orders. Emma stared at Adrian. You didn't even ask. I didn't need to. They're your family. They're now targets. The words hit her harder than the attempted kidnapping. My grandmother, Lily, they're in danger because of me. No, Adrian corrected gently. Because of me. Emma lowered her head. A single tear escaped before she could stop it. I never wanted this. I know. His voice softened. And neither did I. An hour later, the convoy arrived outside Emma's apartment building. The street appeared normal. Children played basketball nearby. An old couple walked their dog. Nothing looked suspicious. Marco stepped out first. His instincts immediately tightened. The basketball court. Too quiet. The players weren't sweating. One of them wore brand new shoes on a dusty court. Another kept touching something beneath his jacket. Marco calmly raised his hand. Nobody else noticed the signal. Every security agent instantly became alert. One of the players looked up. Their eyes met. He cursed under his breath, then reached for a concealed radio. Marco moved. Everything erupted at once. The fake basketball bounced away. 3 men scattered in different directions. 2 SUVs accelerated from opposite ends of the street. Emma gasped. What is happening? They were waiting. Marco tackled one suspect before he reached the corner. Another disappeared into an alley. The third sprinted toward Emma's apartment entrance. Adrian was already there. He caught the man's wrist before he reached the door. No dramatic fight. No wasted motion. The attacker swung once. Adrian slipped the punch, twisted the man's arm, forced him onto his knees in less than 3 seconds. The man cried out in pain. Adrian released him immediately. He wasn't interested in revenge. Only answers. He crouched slightly. Victor sent you. The man laughed through gritted teeth. You think you've already lost. Adrian remained silent. The attacker smiled wider. You still don't understand. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What? The man looked directly at Emma, then whispered. She was never the real target. Before anyone could react, the man bit down hard on something hidden inside his mouth. Marco shouted, "Stop him!" Too late. The attacker collapsed. Within seconds, he was unconscious. Foam gathered at the corner of his lips, a cyanide capsule. Marco immediately checked for a pulse. Alive, barely. Emma stood frozen. She had never witnessed anything like this. She looked at Adrian. What did he mean? Adrian didn't answer, because at that exact moment, Marco's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen. His expression changed. What is it? Adrian asked. Marco looked up slowly. His voice had become unusually tense. Sir, our headquarters. They've just been attacked. For the first time that evening, Adrian realized something chilling. Victor had never intended to kidnap Emma tonight. She had been the distraction. And while Adrian's best security teams protected her, someone else had struck at the heart of his empire. For one heartbeat, the entire street fell silent. Even the flashing emergency lights from Marco's vehicles seemed distant. Emma looked from Marco to Adrian, trying to understand. Our headquarters, Marco repeated, his voice tight, has been attacked. Adrian didn't react the way most people would. He didn't curse. He didn't raise his voice. He simply turned toward the unconscious attacker lying on the pavement. "Alive?" "Barely," Marco replied. "The paramedics are on the way." Adrian nodded once. "Keep him breathing." Marco understood immediately. A dead man answered no questions. Emma stepped closer. "Is anyone hurt?" Adrian met her eyes. He appreciated that she hadn't asked about the building. She had asked about the people. "We don't know yet." His phone vibrated. He answered immediately. "Report." A familiar voice came through the speaker. "Sir, the explosion was limited to the underground archive. No fatalities. 3 guards suffered minor injuries. The fire has been contained." Adrian's shoulders relaxed, almost imperceptibly. "The archive?" "Yes. They weren't trying to destroy the building. They were looking for something." The call ended. Marco frowned. Victor wanted information, not property damage. Adrian's expression darkened. "Which means?" "He didn't find it." Emma quietly listened. She understood almost nothing about Adrian's world. But one thing had become painfully obvious. This wasn't random violence. This was strategy. Someone was playing a very dangerous game, and innocent people were getting caught in the middle. 20 minutes later, Emma insisted on checking on Lily and her grandmother. Despite Marco's objections, Adrian agreed. "I'll go with her." Marco hesitated. "Sir, if Victor expected us to rush to headquarters, he'll also expect us to leave her unprotected." Marco nodded. "Understood." The convoy split into 2 groups. Half raced toward the Moretti headquarters. The rest quietly escorted Emma home. Inside the apartment, the moment Lily saw Emma, she burst into tears. She ran across the room and hugged her so tightly that Emma nearly lost her balance. I thought. Emma gently stroked her hair. "I'm here. I'm okay." Their grandmother slowly emerged from the bedroom using her cane. She smiled warmly, despite the worry in her eyes. "So, you're the young man everyone's making such a fuss about." Emma blinked. "Grandma," Adrian inclined his head politely. "It's a pleasure to meet you." The elderly woman studied him for several seconds, then smiled. "You have tired eyes." The room became unexpectedly quiet. Emma looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. Grandma says whatever she's thinking." Adrian surprised everyone. "So do I." The old woman chuckled. "I like him." Lily's eyes widened. "You've known him for 6 seconds. Long enough." For the first time in days, laughter filled the apartment, even if only for a moment. While Lily prepared tea, Emma stepped onto the small balcony. Adrian joined her a few seconds later. The city lights shimmered in the distance. Neither of them spoke. Finally, Emma broke the silence. "I've been thinking. About? You keep saying this is your fault." "It is. What if you're wrong?" Adrian looked at her. "I'm not. You don't know that." He gave a faint shake of his head. "Victor doesn't target strangers." Emma folded her arms. "Neither do I." He frowned slightly. She continued. "I chose to meet you. I chose to stay. I chose not to run away. So stop carrying every decision by yourself." The words landed with surprising force. Adrian had spent years believing responsibility belonged entirely to him. No one had challenged that belief. Until now. He found himself asking a question he hadn't intended to ask. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" Emma smiled sadly. "I am." He looked surprised. She continued. "I'm afraid of what your world can do. I'm afraid of the people chasing you. I'm afraid of waking up tomorrow and finding out everything has become worse." She met his gaze. "But I'm not afraid of you." A long silence followed. For reasons Adrian couldn't explain, those words mattered far more than they should have. Across town, Victor Salazar stood inside the burned underground archive. Smoke still lingered in the air. His men searched through twisted metal cabinets. One of them approached. We found nothing. Victor wasn't disappointed. I expected that. Another man frowned. Then why attack? Victor slowly picked up a half-burned folder from the floor. Because now Adrian believes this was the objective. He tossed the folder aside. It wasn't. The lieutenant looked confused. What was? Victor smiled. Time. What? He spent the evening protecting Emma. He'll spend tomorrow investigating this. And while he's busy, Victor walked toward the exit. Someone else will open the door. The next morning, Emma insisted on searching for work again. Marco wasn't pleased. It's not safe. Emma smiled politely. And unemployment is? You don't understand. No, I understand perfectly. She adjusted the strap of her worn handbag. My family still has bills. My grandmother still needs medicine. My sister still needs tuition. I can't pause my life because someone else wants me afraid. Marco almost argued. Instead, he quietly stepped aside. Adrian, who had been listening from several feet away, spoke calmly. Let her go. Marco turned. Sir, if we lock her away, Victor wins. Emma looked at Adrian with grateful eyes. Thank you. He simply nodded. Just don't go alone. She smiled. I suppose that's the closest thing you have to a joke. A faint smile crossed Adrian's face. Probably. That afternoon, Emma attended another interview, this time at a family-owned bakery. The owner, Mrs. Alvarez, listened carefully. Unlike everyone else, she didn't interrupt when Emma explained why she'd left the hotel. When Emma finished, the woman leaned back. So, you saved a child. Emma nodded. Yes. Mrs. Alvarez smiled. My husband was a firefighter. He lost 3 jobs because he refused to ignore people who needed help. Emma blinked. He always said, a paycheck can be replaced. A guilty conscience can't. The older woman stood and extended her hand. When can you start? Emma stared. You're hiring me? I think I'd be foolish not to. Tears instantly filled Emma's eyes. Thank you. Mrs. Alvarez laughed. Don't thank me yet. You'll have to wake up at 4 every morning. Emma smiled wider than she had in weeks. I'll be here at 3:30. Outside the bakery, Emma immediately called Lily. I got the job. You did? I did. Lily squealed so loudly that Emma had to pull the phone away from her ear. Neither sister noticed the man sitting inside a parked delivery truck across the street. He quietly lowered a camera, then made a phone call. She's working again. Victor answered himself. Good. The man hesitated. Should we stop her? No. Victor's voice remained calm. Hope is much easier to destroy after people begin believing in it. That evening, Adrian received a report from one of his analysts. The attacker captured outside Emma's apartment had regained consciousness. Marco entered the office. He's asking for you. Adrian stood immediately. Has he spoken? Only one sentence. What did he say? Marco's expression was unusually grim. He says, Victor doesn't want Emma Carter. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What does he want? Marco looked directly at him. He wants. A heavy silence settled over the room. Then Marco finished the sentence. Someone connected to her past. The interrogation room fell into complete silence. Marco stood beside the steel door, arms folded, watching Adrian study the man handcuffed to the table. The captured attacker looked exhausted. His breathing was uneven. The cyanide capsule had nearly killed him. Nearly. Adrian pulled out a chair and sat down. He didn't open a file. He didn't ask for a confession. He simply looked at the man. Several long seconds passed. Finally, see. The attacker laughed weakly. So, the famous Adrian Moretti. You expected someone taller? Adrian asked calmly. The man blinked, then laughed again despite himself. I expected someone angrier. You'll be disappointed. Silence returned. It stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. The attacker's smile slowly faded. Adrian finally spoke. "You said Victor isn't interested in Emma." "No." "Then who?" The man leaned back carefully. "I'll tell you, if you promise one thing." Adrian remained expressionless. "I don't negotiate with kidnappers." The man sighed. "I figured." He lowered his eyes. "You've been looking in the wrong direction." "What does that mean?" "It means Emma Carter was never chosen because she's important." A pause. "She became important because of someone she's related to." Adrian's gaze sharpened. "Explain." The attacker hesitated. For the first time, fear replaced arrogance. "I don't know everything. Victor never tells us everything. But he keeps talking about a notebook." Marco frowned. "A notebook?" The man nodded. "He believes Emma's father hid something before he died." Adrian exchanged a quick glance with Marco. Emma had told him very little about her parents. Only that they had died in a car accident 8 years earlier. The attacker continued. "Victor believes the notebook still exists, and he thinks Emma knows where it is." Adrian asked quietly, "Does she?" The man laughed. "If she does, she doesn't know she knows." Those words lingered long after the interrogation ended. Across town. Emma's first day at the bakery began before sunrise. The smell of fresh bread filled the kitchen. Flour floated through the warm air like tiny snowflakes. Mrs. Alvarez smiled as she handed Emma an apron. "Ready?" Emma tied it around her waist. "I've had worse mornings." Good answer. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt useful again. She kneaded dough, arranged pastries, served early customers with the same warm smile she had once offered hotel guests. One elderly customer stopped before leaving. "I haven't seen you before. It's my first day." He smiled. "I hope it's not your last." Emma smiled back. "So do I." Across the street, a newspaper vendor quietly folded today's paper. Hidden beneath it, a tiny camera captured another photograph. Emma never noticed. At Moretti headquarters, Marco spread several old documents across Adrian's desk. "We reopened the investigation into the Carter family." Adrian looked up. "Anything?" Marco nodded. "Emma's father, Daniel Carter, civil engineer. No criminal history. No unusual financial activity. So why Victor?" Marco slid over another page. There was one strange detail. 3 months before Daniel died, he worked as an independent consultant. For whom? Marco pointed to the company name. Adrian's expression remained still. Only his eyes changed. Salazar Infrastructure Holdings, Victor's company, 8 years ago. So Daniel worked for Victor. Marco nodded, briefly, then resigned. Then, 2 weeks later, the accident happened. The room grew colder. Adrian quietly closed the file. "I don't believe in coincidences. Neither do I." Meanwhile, Emma was enjoying her lunch break behind the bakery. Mrs. Alvarez joined her carrying 2 cups of tea. "You work too hard." Emma laughed softly. "I've heard that before." "From who?" "My little sister." Mrs. Alvarez smiled knowingly. "You remind me of my daughter." Emma looked surprised. "You have children?" "I did." The older woman's smile became bittersweet. "She passed away many years ago." Emma gently reached across the table. "I'm sorry." Mrs. Alvarez squeezed her hand. "So am I." They sat together in comfortable silence. Sometimes, kindness didn't need conversation. That afternoon, Emma returned home carrying a small paper bag. Fresh bread. Mrs. Alvarez had insisted she take the leftovers. Lily's eyes lit up. "Real bread?" Emma laughed. "The bakery owner says stale bread is bad for business." Grandmother Eleanor smiled from her chair. "Then she's a wise woman." They shared dinner together. Nothing expensive, nothing extraordinary. Yet somehow, it felt like a celebration. Afterward, Emma helped her grandmother organize old family boxes stored beneath the bed. Dust filled the air. Photographs, birthday cards, old tax records. Nothing interesting. Then, Grandmother Eleanor paused. "Oh, I forgot about this." She reached into the back of the box and removed a small wooden case. It was worn with age. Its brass lock had long since broken. Emma frowned. "I've never seen that before. It belonged to your father. He asked me to keep it." Emma's heartbeat quickened. "He never mentioned it. He said..." The old woman searched her memory. "Only give it to Emma when she's ready." Emma blinked. "Ready for what?" Grandmother Eleanor smiled sadly. "He never told me." Emma carefully lifted the lid. Inside were several old photographs, a fountain pen, a silver watch, and a black leather notebook, exactly the size of a diary. Emma frowned. "Just a journal?" She opened the first page. Most of it contained ordinary notes. Appointments, construction sketches, phone numbers. Then, a folded envelope slipped onto the floor. Emma picked it up. Her name was written across the front. Emma, in her father's handwriting. Her hands began to tremble. She hadn't seen that handwriting in 8 years. Across the city, Adrian's secure phone rang. Marco answered first. It was one of the surveillance teams. "Sir, we have movement." "What kind?" "The Carter residence." Emma's grandmother retrieved an old wooden box. Marco immediately looked toward Adrian. "Can you confirm the contents?" "Negative. But the box appears to contain documents." Marco covered the microphone. "Sir." Adrian stood before he finished speaking. "The notebook." He was already walking toward the elevator. "Prepare the convoy." Miles away, Victor Salazar's phone rang at exactly the same moment. His informant spoke only 6 words. "She found the wooden box." Victor slowly smiled. At last. So, it really did exist. He stood and buttoned his coat. "Call everyone. It's time." Back inside the apartment, Emma carefully unfolded the letter. Her father's familiar handwriting filled the page. She took a slow breath and began reading. "My dearest Emma." Before she could continue, the apartment lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Lily gasped. Grandmother Eleanor looked toward the window. Outside, several black SUVs screeched to a stop. At the same time, 3 unmarked vans blocked both ends of the street. Emma's heart pounded. Someone was coming. And this time, they weren't hiding. Darkness swallowed the apartment. For one endless second, no one moved. The refrigerator fell silent. The old wall clock stopped ticking. Outside, tires screeched against wet pavement. Then, headlights flooded the living room through the curtains. Lily grabbed Emma's arm. "What's happening?" Emma instinctively stepped in front of her younger sister. "I don't know." Grandmother Eleanor slowly rose from her chair, gripping her cane with both hands. Her face had gone pale, but her voice remained steady. "Close the curtains." Emma hurried toward the window. She carefully lifted one corner of the fabric. Black SUVs, 3 of them. Behind them, several dark vans blocked both ends of the street. Men were already stepping out. Some wore black suits. Others wore dark tactical clothing. For one terrifying moment, Emma couldn't tell which side they belonged to. A loud knock echoed through the apartment building. Not their apartment, the main entrance downstairs. Then another, heavier. The entire building seemed to shake. Lily whispered, "Emma." Emma squeezed her hand. "It's okay." Neither of them believed it. Outside, Marco exited the lead SUV. His eyes swept the street. Too many vehicles. Too many blind corners. His earpiece crackled. Movement on the rooftops. 4 heat signatures. Possible overwatch. Marco answered immediately. Hold positions. Nobody fires unless absolutely necessary. Adrian stepped out beside him. He looked once toward Emma's apartment window. The lights were still out. Good. Darkness made her harder to see. Marco spoke quietly. Victor's people arrived first. Adrian nodded. They've surrounded the block. They're waiting. For what? Adrian's eyes remained fixed on the building. For us. Victor never attacked without a second objective. This was no exception. Several blocks away. Inside a command van, Victor Salazar watched live drone footage of the neighborhood. His lieutenant looked confused. We have enough men. Why not attack? Victor smiled faintly. Because Adrian expects an attack. The lieutenant frowned. Then what are we waiting for? Victor zoomed in on the apartment building. For Emma, to make the first move. Back inside the apartment, Emma remembered the letter still lying on the floor. She picked it up. Her father's handwriting suddenly felt far more important than it had moments earlier. Grandmother Eleanor looked at it. Take it. Emma hesitated. What about the notebook? Take both. Lily looked confused. Grandma, what is all this? The elderly woman slowly sat back down. Her eyes filled with memories she had carried for years. There are things your father never wanted you girls to worry about. Emma knelt beside her. You knew? Grandmother Eleanor nodded. Not everything, but enough to know. He died frightened. The room fell silent. Emma had never heard her grandmother describe that night before. He wasn't afraid for himself. The old woman continued. He was afraid that someone would come looking for you. Emma's breath caught. For me? No. Grandmother Eleanor gently touched Emma's cheek. For both of you. Outside, Adrian's secure phone vibrated. Marco glanced at the screen. Our cyber team. He answered. What is it? The analyst spoke quickly. We intercepted Victor's communications. He's searching for a handwritten letter. Marco immediately looked toward Adrian. Not just the notebook. The letter too. Adrian's expression hardened. He knows. Marco nodded. He knows there's something inside. Adrian looked up toward Emma's apartment. He made a decision instantly. We're going in. Marco hesitated. They're waiting for exactly that. I know. If we wait longer, Victor may try something worse. Without another word, Adrian walked toward the entrance. Marco signaled 6 agents. They followed. The front door of the apartment building opened before Adrian reached it. Emma stood there, still holding the notebook, still holding the folded letter. She froze. So it was you. Adrian looked relieved to see her unharmed. You shouldn't have come outside. Emma looked around at the armed men. I was going to say the same thing. Despite everything, he almost smiled. Then he noticed what she was holding, the notebook and the letter. His eyes narrowed. You found them. Emma nodded slowly. They belonged to my father. Before Adrian could answer, a loud engine roared from the far end of the street. Everyone turned. A garbage truck accelerated directly toward the barricade. Too fast. Much too fast, Marco shouted. Move. The truck smashed through 2 parked cars. Metal exploded across the road. Smoke and shattered glass filled the air. At that exact moment, masked men emerged from both sidewalks. Not dozens, only 6. Disciplined, fast. They ignored Adrian completely. Every one of them charged toward Emma. They're after the notebook, Marco yelled. Everything erupted. Moretti's security team intercepted the attackers before they reached the apartment entrance. No wild gunfire, no chaos. Only short, controlled movements. One attacker swung a metal baton. Marco blocked it and drove him backward. Another tried to slip past the line. Adrian stepped directly into his path. The attacker pulled a knife. Adrian caught the man's wrist, twisted. The knife clattered onto the pavement. One clean movement. No wasted effort. The attacker collapsed, unable to continue. Emma watched in stunned silence. There was no anger in Adrian's face, only absolute focus. He fought only because someone stood behind him, not because he enjoyed it. Suddenly, one masked man broke through. He wasn't aiming for Emma. He lunged toward grandmother Eleanor, who had stepped into the doorway behind Lily. Emma reacted instantly. "No!" She shoved her grandmother aside. The attacker grabbed Emma instead. The notebook slipped from her hands. It skidded across the pavement. Everyone saw it. For one terrifying second, the entire fight stopped revolving around Emma. It revolved around the notebook. The masked man reached for it. So did Marco. So did another attacker. Then, a teenage boy from the apartment building sprinted into the street. Without understanding anything, he picked up the notebook. "Miss Emma." He ran toward her. The nearest attacker changed direction immediately. Adrian moved first. He stepped between the boy and the attacker. One precise strike. The attacker fell unconscious. Adrian took the notebook from the teenager. "Go inside." The boy nodded frantically and disappeared. Emma was breathing hard. Her wrist hurt where the attacker had grabbed her. Adrian walked over and quietly handed her the notebook. "You keep it." Emma looked surprised. "You trust me with this? It belongs to your family." She accepted it, then looked down at the folded letter still clutched in her other hand. "I still haven't read it." Adrian glanced toward the street. The attackers were retreating. Too easily. Too quickly. Marco noticed it too. "Sir, they're falling back." Adrian didn't relax. "No, they're finished." Marco frowned. "Then why retreat?" Adrian slowly turned toward the apartment rooftop. His instincts screamed. They already have what they came for. Before anyone could understand, a single red laser dot appeared. Not on Emma. Not on Adrian. On the folded letter in Emma's hand. Adrian's eyes widened. "Emma!" He lunged toward her. At the exact same instant, a suppressed rifle cracked from somewhere above. The muffled crack of the suppressed rifle split the night. Time seemed to stop. Emma saw Adrian move before she heard the shot. He crossed the distance between them in a single stride, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. He drove both of them to the pavement. The bullet hissed through the air. Instead of striking the folded letter, it shattered the apartment building's glass entrance behind them. Thousands of glittering fragments exploded across the sidewalk. Children inside the building screamed. Marco reacted instantly. "Sniper!" His voice echoed through the street. Every Moretti security agent shifted positions with practiced precision. 2 shielded Emma's family. 3 searched for the shooter's angle. The rest pushed civilians behind parked vehicles. No one fired blindly. No one panicked. Emma lay beneath Adrian, too stunned to move. Her heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. She looked at him. "Are you?" Before she could finish, she noticed a thin line of blood running down his left sleeve. The bullet hadn't hit him directly, but a shard of shattered glass had sliced through the fabric. Emma grabbed his arm. "You're bleeding." He glanced at it once. "It's nothing." "It isn't nothing. It can wait." His attention remained on the rooftops. Emma frowned. "You always do that." "What?" "Pretend you're fine." For the briefest moment, he looked at her. Then quietly admitted, "I've had worse." Emma almost smiled despite the chaos. Then quietly admitted, "That's not an answer." "No, it isn't." Above them, the sniper calmly dismantled his rifle. One smooth motion after another. No hurry. The first shot had never been intended to kill, only to force Adrian into the open. He slung the rifle case over his shoulder and stepped toward the rooftop exit. Before he reached it, a voice echoed behind him. "Going somewhere?" The sniper froze. Marco's best scout emerged from the shadows. The sniper smiled beneath his mask. "So, You found me. I did. The sniper tossed the empty rifle case aside, then jumped. Not toward the scout. Off the opposite side of the building. By the time Marco's team reached the edge, he had vanished into the maze of alleyways below. Only one thing remained. A small black envelope, exactly where the rifle had been assembled. Down on the street, paramedics insisted on treating Adrian's arm. He allowed it only because Emma refused to let go of his sleeve. You'll reopen the cut. I'm trying to stop it from bleeding. You aren't succeeding. I know. She looked up at the medic. Please tell him. The medic smiled awkwardly. Sir, she's right. Marco looked away to hide a grin. It was the first time he had ever seen anyone successfully argue with Adrian over something so ordinary. Adrian finally sighed. 5 minutes. Emma smiled. Thank you. Marco quietly muttered to another guard. That's the fastest anyone has ever won an argument with him. The guard whispered back. I don't think she realizes she just did. Inside the apartment, Grandmother Eleanor sat quietly with the folded letter resting in her lap. She hadn't let it out of her sight. Lily poured everyone tea with trembling hands. I still don't understand. She looked toward Adrian. Who are these people? Emma answered before he could. They're after Dad's notebook. Lily frowned. Why? No one answered. Because no one truly knew. Grandmother Eleanor slowly unfolded the letter again. I think your father wanted this read together. Emma sat beside her. So did I. The room became silent. Outside, security teams continued searching the neighborhood. Inside, only the sound of paper unfolding remained. Emma began reading aloud. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then I was unable to tell you everything myself. Her voice trembled. She continued. First, understand one thing. Your sister and your grandmother were never meant to carry this burden. Protect them. Emma swallowed hard. She looked at Lily. Lily quietly reached for her hand. Emma continued reading. Years ago, I discovered something I was never supposed to see. Adrian listened without interruption. Every word mattered. I believed reporting it would protect innocent people. Instead, Emma paused. Her father's handwriting seemed to shake across the page. It placed all of you in danger. The room had become so quiet that even breathing sounded loud. Emma read the next line. If anyone ever comes looking for my notebook. She stopped. There was another folded sheet hidden inside the letter. Smaller, thicker. She carefully unfolded it. A hand-drawn map. Several streets. A bridge. An old warehouse near the river. No explanation. Only a single sentence written beneath it. The truth begins here. Marco immediately photographed the map. Our analysts can identify the location. Adrian gently shook his head. I already know it. Everyone looked at him. Where is it? He stared at the drawing. It belonged to Victor. Emma blinked. Belonged? He sold it 7 years ago. Marco frowned. Officially. Adrian nodded once. Officially. Something about the map disturbed him. Victor wanted this notebook, yet the map pointed directly toward one of Victor's old properties. Too obvious. Unless it wasn't for Victor at all. Across the city, Victor stood inside a private study overlooking the river. One of his men entered hurriedly. The sniper missed. Victor didn't look surprised. He wasn't trying to hit them. The man hesitated. He recovered the photograph. Victor slowly turned. What photograph? The one hidden beneath the notebook cover. Silence. The lieutenant frowned. There was a photograph? Victor smiled. They'll discover it's missing soon enough. The lieutenant's face changed. You switched objectives. I always do. Victor poured another glass of whiskey. They're protecting the notebook. They're protecting the notebook. No one thinks to count the photographs. He looked toward the dark river outside. And now, the final piece belongs to me. Back in Emma's apartment, Emma gently closed the notebook. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. She began turning the pages again. Slowly, carefully. Then she noticed it. Near the back cover, a thin rectangular outline. Something had once been tucked inside. Now, it was empty. Emma looked at Adrian. There was something here. Adrian nodded. I know. What was it? I don't know. Marco's phone rang. He answered. His expression hardened immediately. What? Everyone turned toward him. He slowly lowered the phone. Our team reviewed the rooftop footage. And? Marco looked directly at Adrian. The sniper never looked at Emma. A heavy silence filled the room. He never looked at you either. Emma frowned. Then what was he aiming at? Marco answered quietly. He was watching the notebook. Adrian looked at the empty space inside the back cover. Everything suddenly fit together. The attack, the distraction, the missing item. Victor had never needed the notebook. He had needed the object hidden inside it. Whatever it was, he had it now. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Adrian realized they were no longer one step ahead. They were already behind. Dawn broke over the city, but no one inside Emma's apartment had slept. The notebook rested on the kitchen table. Beside it lay Daniel Carter's letter, now carefully protected inside a clear document sleeve. The missing photograph had changed everything. Victor Salazar had risked an elaborate operation not for the notebook itself, but for a single piece of paper hidden inside it. Emma wrapped both hands around a cup of untouched tea. So, what now? No one answered immediately. Marco studied the enlarged photographs of the notebook on his tablet. His analysts had reconstructed every page, every margin, every folded corner. Then one of them noticed something. Sir, Marco looked up. What is it? There are indentations. Someone wrote on the page that used to cover the missing photograph. He turned the screen toward Adrian. Using digital enhancement, faint impressions became visible. Not complete sentences, only fragments. Warehouse 17, container, October. Ledger, Adrian's eyes narrowed. It wasn't a diary. It was evidence. Emma looked down at her father's handwriting. For 8 years, she had believed he had died in a tragic accident. Now, that certainty had vanished. She whispered, "My father was trying to expose them." Adrian nodded slowly. "I believe so. And they killed him." Silence. No one rushed to answer. No one needed to. Emma already knew. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Instead, she carefully folded the letter. "My father spent his final days trying to protect us." She looked toward Lily and her grandmother. "I'm not going to let that sacrifice disappear." For the first time since Adrian had met her, he saw something new. Not fear, not kindness. Resolve. The same quiet determination Daniel Carter had probably carried years earlier. Later that morning, the Moretti convoy headed toward the abandoned warehouse marked on Daniel's map. This time, Emma insisted on coming. No. Adrian's answer was immediate. "It's too dangerous." Emma met his gaze. "It was my father's map. It concerns my family. I have the right to know." Marco expected an argument. Instead, Adrian studied her for several seconds, then nodded. "You stay beside me." I wasn't planning otherwise. A faint smile crossed his face. Neither of them noticed Lily smiling quietly from the back seat. Warehouse 17 stood abandoned near the river. Broken windows, rusted steel doors, years of dust. It looked forgotten. Exactly the kind of place people stopped noticing. Marco's team secured the perimeter. No movement. No heat signatures. Adrian pushed the heavy door open. The echo rolled through the empty building. Emma stepped inside. Sunlight filtered through holes in the roof. Dust floated through the air. Everything appeared abandoned. until Grandmother Eleanor's words echoed in Emma's memory. The truth begins here. She looked around slowly. Her father had drawn the map by hand. If he had hidden something, he wouldn't have relied on chance. Emma walked toward an old concrete support column. Something felt familiar, not because she had been here before, because of one of her father's habits. Whenever he built model projects with her as a little girl, he always marked important points with tiny carved stars. She ran her fingers across the concrete. Nothing. She tried another column. Still nothing. Then, on the third column, she found it. A tiny five-pointed star. Barely visible beneath layers of dust. Adrian. He joined her immediately. What is it? My father carved this. Marco examined the wall. Hollow sound. Two agents carefully removed a loose concrete panel. Behind it, a weatherproof metal box. Emma's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were several flash drives, a thick envelope, and one final letter, addressed not to Emma, but to anyone willing to finish what Daniel Carter had started. Back at Victor Salazar's estate, his phone rang. The moment he answered, he heard only 3 words. They found it. Victor slowly closed his eyes. For the first time in days, his calm expression cracked. So, Daniel planned for this. He ended the call without another word. Then quietly walked to the window. He had lost. Not because Adrian had defeated him, because a man who had died 8 years earlier had anticipated every move. Victor looked at his reflection in the glass. There is only one option left. His lieutenant entered. What are your orders? Victor's voice was cold. We disappear. The lieutenant froze. Sir? We burn every record. Close every account. Leave the country. And if Moretti comes after us? Victor gave a tired smile. He will. And this time, he'll deserve to win. The evidence inside Daniel's box proved overwhelming. Financial ledgers, shipping manifests, hidden accounts, photographs, recorded conversations. Enough to expose years of organized corruption involving Victor's network. Within weeks, authorities across multiple jurisdictions launched coordinated investigations. Dozens of arrests followed. Shell companies collapsed. Frozen bank accounts reached into the hundreds of millions. Victor Salazar vanished before he could be arrested. An international warrant was issued, but he was gone. His empire wasn't. It crumbled piece by piece. When reporters later asked how the investigation had begun, the official answer was simple. Evidence provided through lawful investigative channels. No one mentioned Emma. No one mentioned Adrian. Some stories didn't belong in headlines. 3 months later, life looked very different. Emma still worked at Mrs. Alvarez's bakery, by choice. She loved it there. Every morning, children stopped by on their way to school. She always slipped an extra cookie into someone's bag. Mrs. Alvarez pretended not to notice. Lily returned to college. Her tuition had been paid anonymously. Emma suspected the truth. She never asked. Grandmother Eleanor's health steadily improved. The stress that had weighed on her for years had finally begun to fade. One sunny afternoon, Emma returned to St. Gabriel Community Center. The children surrounded her immediately. Miss Emma, you disappeared. I had some adventures. Oliver frowned. Were there pirates? Emma laughed. Something like that, as she helped them build another cardboard spaceship. A familiar black SUV, quietly parked across the street. Adrian stepped out. No bodyguards this time. Just him. He walked into the courtyard carrying a small cardboard box. Emma smiled. More paper spaceships? He handed her the box. She opened it, and inside was the old red balloon, carefully preserved. Alongside it, the broken hotel name tag she had worn on the day she saved the little boy. Emma looked up in surprise. You kept these? Adrian nodded. They remind me. Of what? That one decision can change everything. Emma gently held the balloon. It wasn't really the balloon. No, it wasn't. She looked at him. You know, if that little boy hadn't chased this, none of this would have happened. Adrian smiled. Perhaps. Do you regret it? Emma thought for a long moment. She remembered losing her job, the fear, the sleepless nights, the danger. Then she looked around, the laughing children, her healthy grandmother, Lily smiling through the community center window, Adrian standing quietly beside her. Finally, she answered, no, I'd still run into that street. Every single time. A warm breeze carried the children's laughter across the courtyard. Adrian looked at her with the same quiet certainty he had felt on the day they first met. That's why I came back. Emma tilted her head. I thought you came to return my balloon. I did. A brief pause, but I was hoping. He hesitated. The powerful man who could negotiate billion-dollar deals suddenly searched for the right words. That perhaps you'd have dinner with me. Emma smiled. Not because he was wealthy, not because he was powerful, but because, beneath all the silence, he had finally spoken from the heart. I'd like that. The children erupted into cheers, even though none of them knew what had just happened. Oliver shouted, I told you the spaceship worked. Everyone laughed. Sometimes. The smallest act of courage changes only a single life, and sometimes it changes many. Emma had run into the street to save one frightened child. She lost her job. She uncovered the truth about her father. She protected her family. She found justice. And somewhere along the way, two people from completely different worlds discovered that kindness is not weakness. It is the rarest kind of strength. As the sun dipped below the trees, Emma slipped her hand into Adrian's. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Some endings are remembered not because they are loud, but because, after every storm, they finally become quiet.